These teachings make me want to say hallelujah, amen. So just feel it. If you feel it, just say it, okay? At the end of this tune, I'm going to do a little rap that I've written based on the talk, and it will be different than the first one, Rev, so. I'm going to lay my burden down now. I'm going to leave it on the ground. This freedom I am feeling, it can't be found when I'm looking down. No, 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 no. Hallelujah. Come on, y'all. Come on. I'm going to climb up to the mountains, spread my wings and fly, 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 fly. All these blessings I am counting. Ooh. I got more than all the stars in the sky. I got more than all the stars in the sky. I got more than all the stars in the sky. I feel light as a feather, floating on an angel's wing. I won't worry about the weather, 'cause I am one with everything. 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 See, 'cause I believe and I know there's a power in a seed, reminding itself how to become a tree. There's a power in a cell, and it's capable of making a you or a me. There's a power in a word, vibrating at a frequency. And there's a power inside that power, inside that power is love, 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 love. Sing that part with me, y'all. Love, 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 love. Oh, one more time. Love, 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 love. All right, keep it going. I'm gonna try to do this rap right now. I just wrote it right now. I hope you enjoy it. I'm gonna do my best. Here we go. Keep it going. Spirit is all, there is no opposition. Getting unstuck is as easy as a decision. To know our world is our own creation. Remember, we are one, there is no separation. Reverend Kathianne has only one job to do: heal the separation between me and you. Original sin is the sin of separation. Don't be Bible-phobic in this conversation. The sin of separation is the mother of all sins. Rumi says, why open the door when the wall is an illusion? In the end, the means is not today, no how. Start at the beginning, 10,000 things in the Tao. From one cell, two, then the fingers and the toes. Lao Tzu had a divine download. All traditions speak of beginning as one. Big bang, singular event, one is what we come from. Semitic people didn't see time like the Greeks. We entered it into time and we flow, we let it be. Genesis is all about dividing the good from the bad. The separation, no little joy will be had. We are one. Unity, lean in, don't run. The divine discontent is pushing you into wisdom. Embrace the commonality, hamdallah. We are all one urge, we all know one God. Back to the beginning, we are not alone. We are a thread in the web. When we focus on grows, share your consciousness. Let's get well. Just like an infection can travel, so can white blood cells. The living universe is all of us, we are one. Hey, Kathianne, you're doing your job. The healing has begun. The healing has begun. Woo! So I'm one with everything. I am 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 one with everything. Da-ba-da-da-da-da-ba-da-ba-da. Seattle, Seattle, it is so wonderful to be in Seattle. Yeah. There's a power in a seed, reminding itself how to become a tree. There's a power in a cell, and it's capable of making a you or a me. There's a power in a word, love, vibrating at a frequency. And there's a power Thank you so much.
Understanding, new awarenesses make everything crystal clear. So what became crystal clear to me that I needed to go back to what my mentor had told me when I first became a minister. And he said that I only had one job. Right. And variations thereof. Now, I work for God, but supposedly I only have one job, which I mean, I've really got to cut away some stuff. And that one job is that I need to facilitate the sense of separation that plagues us all. Because the sense of separation is the source of all sin. So you got your second service. First service has a whole thing with the Bible. They're kind of Bible phobic. But you're not, are you? No, who's Bible phobic? Any Bible. There's only one Bible. Which Bible? Which Bible? Okay, God bless you. Raising your hand, you're now healed. Other people do it. God gave the same power to everybody, and just talking about it just relieves it, because there's too much good information for us to throw out the whole book of wisdom just because there's a few ways that it has been interpreted by a few crazy people. That we should let them have that book? Are you kidding me? I'm taking back the book. I am. And there's a reason, please. So I'm going to use the word sin. So I'll sneak through this really quickly. It's like getting a shot. It won't last long. And in the Bible, it talks about sin and even original sin. And the original sin is the sense of separation, because it's from what all other sins unfold from. It is the beginning. It's the epicenter of sin in the world. And sin is a mistake. And the biggest mistake that we can make is the idea that we can be separate. Separate from God, separate from our good, separate from others. All of that causes unskilled behavior that we regret, get angry over, and feel guilty about. And that we see in other people. The origin of unskilled behavior is the sense of separation. So if I want to talk about kinship with all life, I need to do my job today, which is to facilitate the healing of that sense of separation. Now, you're going to have to do your own healing. But like a doctor, no matter, or a nurse, or whoever is working in any medical field, they don't heal the body. They create the support so the body can heal itself. I hope that what I say becomes of support for you to allow your soul to heal from the sense of separation if you choose to have that happen. And all the effects of that sense of separation. So we're here today to correct the collective mistake, because a sin is a mistake. The word that was translated as sin meant to miss the mark. You made a mistake. Do it again. You just made a mistake. Now, doesn't that feel better? Whew. So instead of saying, you little sinner, we should just say, you little mistaker, you. It's true. Who has not made a mistake? Look what great company we have. Okay. Whew. If we can get over our sense of separation, if we can get over that mistaken idea that we are somehow separate from ourself, our good, our God, and others, we will be able to do what the talk for today says, which is to celebrate each other, to honor each other, to respect each other, to hold each other high. See, last week I talked about love moving out and reaching a wall. And that wall, as it moves out from us, as we love more and we do our spiritual practice and we allow love to grow in us, it starts to expand beyond us, and then it hits just a natural wall, and that natural wall are those people who are unlovable, and they're everywhere. And then we grow in love by loving them anyway. But what can happen is we love, now listen to this, listen to the subtlety of this. I love them anyway. Yeah, bless their little hearts. I can love them anyway. which is still a sense of separation. So I want to heal even that, so that we understand a little bit better about who we are, and therefore we understand a little bit better about the power that lies within us to live the life that we want to live. Now, this loving people isn't always easy to do, because it does look like they're unlovable. And even when we decide we're going to love them, we're loving them. But we're still seeing them as separate. Rumi said it this way: why struggle to open the door between us when the whole wall is an illusion? So today, to get to this, to address this issue, I'm going to do something I very seldom do. I'm going to reverse what I said before. Now, it's not that I'm going to deny what I said before, but I'm going to reverse what I said before, because I like to talk about the end. At first month of the year in January, we talk about intentions. Intentions are, you hold this idea, you hold the end in mind, and the end will draw you to it. I will even say over and over again, in the end is the means, Thomas Troward. I know how to do that. You just picture it, you just go there, and you get your little hooks into it, and you just draw it, or it really draws you to it. But we're not going to do that today. We're going to reverse that and release the end. So just so all of you that have been trained by me for years, just let that go. And today we're going to stop looking at the end and start living from the beginning. Living from the beginning. Because if we go back far enough, we will always find oneness. The Tao says it this way: the Tao is one. From the one comes the two. From the two comes the 10,000 things. Now, doesn't that sound like how all life begins? One cell. Anybody come another way? From one cell were two cells, and from the two cells, the 10,000 things. Which means the 10,000 things were the fingers and the toes and the liver and the heart and the muscles and the skin and the bones and the nerve endings. And more and more and more and more, the 10,000 things from that one. Now, this is amazing to me, because you got to get what a mystical, enlightened experience it must have been for someone who will call Lao Tzu to write something out of his inspiration, that he saw that everything came from one. And that was the very force, the flow, the way of life. The Tao means the way. The way of life is that from a single thing, everything comes. My goodness! He couldn't have dissected. He didn't, he couldn't have known. But somehow there was this incredible download of wisdom, and from that came a whole religion and a spiritual philosophy that is magnificent. And that's why all world religions talk about, in general, the same thing, not in tradition, not in the way that they are practiced, but they all say something similar in the beginning. In fact, I have a book that's called In the Beginning, and it's all the beginning traditions, the creation stories, and it's amazing how the characters are different. They wear different masks and different uniforms, but there's usually the same story. The one becomes the 10,000 things. So, what does this mean? This means that one can be shown in other ways. For instance, in physics right now, and in astrophysics, they believe that out of a singular event, we used to be called the Big Bang, everything exploded into existence. Now, it didn't just develop over time, it unfolded. But out of one singular event, all of the galaxies were created. The one became the two. I don't know about the two, but it did become the 10,000 things. There's this oneness, this sense of oneness. So we have our body, speaks of the oneness. Our astronomy speaks of the oneness, and our Bibles speak of the oneness. The Bible, back to the Bible. Let's just take a deep breath. It'll be okay. The story of Genesis is revered by three major world religions: Islam, Judaism, and Christianity. And in those stories in Genesis, there's two stories about creation. Now, before I get into those two stories, because we're going to go back to the beginning, because if we want to know oneness, we've got to go back to the beginning. Jesus said when he was asked how things will end, how many of you want to know how things will end? His disciples around him wanted to know how things will end, because most likely they saw that he was somewhat disruptive, had some very odd ideas, and they were following him, and they said, how will this end? And he said, how can you know the end if you don't even know the beginning? If you don't know how it all began, you won't know how you can create the end. So let's go back to the beginning that he was talked about, because in Jewish mysticism at that time, many of the people who wanted to really connect with God, not just go to the temple and pay their pigeons and move on, that was a joke. Keep with me. Because they pay their pigeons and get some blessings and move on. The ones that really wanted to know God did a meditation on Genesis, on the beginning. There were Genesis meditations, and most likely Jesus was one of those people who practiced that as well. So they would practice these stories, and there's two stories. But before I get there, I need to talk about the Semitic people. The Semitic people did not see time as we see time. Time as we see it was developed by the Greeks. The Semitic people thought that time was fluid, and we live in it. We don't watch it pass by. So it's not a passerby. It's something that you enter into and flow with. Time was alive. Time was just as sacred as space. So the way that they would view it is, whatever was happening was still happening, which is one of the reasons why we can say God is always in the beginning. So if you want to know the end, you've got to know God, and you've got to know the beginning, because it's still happening. So when God said, let there be, it's still saying, let there be. When God created the heavens and the earth, God is still creating the heavens and the earth. And we are a part of that if we choose to be, if we go back to the beginning. So let me share with you how this whole idea of the sense of separation happened. Because there's two books in Genesis, two books that are put together, chapter 1 and chapter 2 of Genesis, and they were actually books. And they were stories told by two different people from two different tribes. And the people that put everything together didn't know which one to accept, so they just put them together. But they're totally different philosophy. Read them. One is poetic and mystical, and the other one's like, let me explain to you why people are so bad. So in one, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, and it said, ooh, this would be a good idea, let it be. And this would be a really great idea, let it be. And this would be a really good idea, let it be. It sort of sounds like prayer, doesn't it? And then the other person came along and said, so why are people having such a bad time? And they too had a mystical download. Just as Lao Tzu had a mystical download to see that from the one became the 10,000 things, they saw into the collective psyche and said, here's where the problem lies. But they couldn't say it. They can't just say it. You got to have a story. There's nothing written. They have to have a story to explain why people have problems. They couldn't just say, you know what, it's your stinking thinking. So they made it a story. And the story became that Adam and Eve, which means, actually, Adam and Eve means first man, first woman. Adam and Eve were living in paradise because they had a connection with God, and they walked and talked every day with God. Doesn't that sound like heaven? And then something happened. God said, you will enjoy my company forever and ever, except if you start to believe in good and evil. So don't eat of that tree. Don't pick that fruit. Don't pick the fruit of good and evil. Because as soon as you pick the fruit of good and evil, you are going to start to believe that things are opposite. And as soon as you get into judgment, you can't know your oneness with me. But oh well. It's just a tiny piece of fruit. And they picked it. And when we start dividing things up as good and bad, good and evil, right and wrong, we no longer have the sense of oneness that we came from in the beginning, and that we knew as a baby in the beginning. So we grow out of it because all of a sudden we're raising young people to know what's right and wrong and good and evil. And as soon as that happens, do you see the separation? So that is the beginning of the sense of separation, from whence comes all the other things that we do, trying to make up for not being one with the one. So we do things to protect ourselves, we do things to promote ourselves, we do things to make ourselves feel safe. Now, what does this do for us? Because Ernest Holmes said that Ernest Holmes said, and I'm paraphrasing, he didn't care what we knew, he cared how we applied it to make our life better. That's a paraphrasing. So how can this information make our life better? There's a few things. The first one that I would say is that in that beginning, God said, let there be, and God is always saying, let there be, and God is always calling it good. And so God is always manifesting its idea of good into creation. And since we are now a part of the creation, we can sometimes not, we are affected by that push, that creation. And that push and that creation wants to push and create through us. And we need to have a new experience of what that creation and that goodness can be. And what it shows up like is divine discontent. So when I feel divine discontent now, I ask myself, instead of what am I supposed to run from, what am I being pushed into? So I need to have volunteer, that's the word. I always get people taller than me. How'd that happen? Oh, because I'm short. That's okay. In the beginning next time, I'm going to have longer legs. All right, so one of the things that I used to do for people when I wanted them to connect with what they're being moved into, because that divine discontent is pushing on us, and sometimes what I would do is help people touch that discontent by having you feel my hand on you? Now lean into it. Go ahead. So you really feel the push, right? So the reason that I did this is because the whole body thinks. And oftentimes we only use this little part of our body. Come on, think about it. That's not much, really. When the whole body, I gotcha. The whole body is wise. The whole body is wise. And so this really makes your body think, doesn't it? Yeah. And so then I would say, and you don't have to say anything because I didn't select you because I just pulled you up and made you do this. But if you were really wanting to think about how that discontent was manifesting, I would say, so what is the word that is wanting to push through you and push you into a greater expression of good? So you see how then the body has to think? Otherwise, we just go, I don't know. I don't think I'm being pushed. I really think it's their fault, and I hate that job. And it's all up here. It's up here. Whereas the body is filled with so much wisdom. You may sit down, my dear. So the reason I say that is because I get discontent too. But I've learned that if I run, I take the discontent with me. And that's why Ernest Holmes said, we must be a people who are for something and against nothing. Because if I feel the discontent and I look behind and I say, it's that, and I run, I haven't healed anything because I'm not letting the universe say, let there be through me. That's the first lesson about going back to the beginning. The next lesson is that if the one becomes the 10,000 things, so the one impulsion became the 10,000 religions and more. And that's what I love about our philosophy, is that we are not right and we're not wrong. We just are. Desmond Tutu said it this way: the God who existed before any religion counts on you to make the oneness of the human family known and celebrated. We are to make it known. We are to embrace the commonalities of other people. Hamdulillah, which is praise be to God. I'm going to hear that so much. And when I go to Egypt, there are going to be people praying 5 times a day, and the call to worship is just so amazing. It makes your heart burst open. And you know what? I'm going to look at that and see our similar urge to know God instead of my, 5 times a day. Isn't that a little excessive? Or anything else I want to say. You know, I could get into how they dress and what they do and what they eat, instead of, wow, look at this. They have an urge to know their God, and I have an urge to know my God. The next thing that I can say that comes out of this idea of going back to the beginning and knowing that we come from a one is it allows me to remember and to speak this truth, and that is that we can never be alone. One of the things that plagues humanity the most is this fear that we are alone, even when we're surrounded by people. Nobody knows our pain. Nobody knows what we're going through. We are alone. And yet, that's like my finger saying I'm all alone. This finger's one, but it's not alone. We can't be alone. If we come from the one, we're one with the one, and we really are one with each other. And I want to say this because loneliness is so hard to break out of. How you can say it or not, but just know that if you admit what goes on, you're halfway through being healed. How many of you have ever felt alone? Even when you've got a bunch of people around you. You could be at the biggest family reunion you've ever been at and still feel alone. You can be in an office with a company that has thousands of people and still feel alone. You can be with your best friends and have something you cannot express and feel alone. Unfortunately, since consciousness is cause, that statement that I am alone, I'm alone, I'm alone perpetuates itself and causes a huge problem. So I want to offer an antidote. And that antidote is, I can't be alone. I cannot be alone. I am one with the one. Say that. I can't be alone. I'm one with the one. Now, the reason I say that, and I'd like you to write it down, like write it on something and put it in your smartphone and have it show up on your computer and put little sticky notes everywhere, is because oftentimes we feel alone and then we talk about being alone. I'm just all alone. I'm alone. And then it gets bigger. And so we put the thought and the feeling, and then it gets bigger, and then it becomes a monster we can't control, and we don't know what corral to put it back in. And yet it has to be false, because we're one with the one. Now here's the deal. Truth heals. Facts can be reiterated, and it will perpetuate a situation, but truth will heal. So just try this out. Silently to yourself, say, I'm all alone. How's it feel? Now say this: I can't be alone. I'm one with the one. How's that feel? Doesn't it feel better? Wouldn't you rather feel that way? So isn't that part of the healing? Because what we teach is a thought plus a feeling will equal a reaction. Well, if you say what you want to have happen and it feels good, then that truth will allow that to start to happen. So out of this idea of oneness, a lot of things are happening. We get to feel the push of God and honor it. We get to see how God diversifies itself and through all sorts of religions and honor it. See, we're honoring each other. And then we even get to love and bless our feeling of aloneness, because what that feeling of aloneness is saying is I need to lean back into the beginning of where I came from, because I did not create myself. And I'm one with the one. And most importantly, and this actually comes from Chief Seattle, the most important lesson out of all of this is inspired by the words of Chief Seattle. Humankind has not woven the web of life. We haven't woven the web of life. You didn't create yourself. You didn't create the connection. We are but a thread within it. Whatever we do to the web, we do to ourselves. All things are bound together, all things connected. So what's so great about this honoring each other, because we've started to heal the sense of separation. And we can't just heal the sense of separation without honoring the connection. We're going to have to do, it's a two-step. Oh, we should have music, but anyway. Oh, I just love it. You know, it's like, I am not separate. I'm not alone. I can't be alone. I honor that which I see because it's a part of me. I can't be alone. I can't be alone. I honor what I see because it's a part of me. And then we start to sense the web that we exist in. And this is important, because just as that one cell became my whole body, creation became this body. Paul said it this way: we are the body of Christ. Now, for those of you that are Christian phobic, just take a deep breath. And Christ means the God within. We are one with this God made manifest. We are the body of God made manifest. We, just as my hand is part of the manifestation of that life form that's showing up as me, each and every one of you is part of that life form, showing up as all of us, as the body of Christ. Now, here's the deal. This is why this is so important. Just like an infection can travel through the body, true? Starts one place, and it can go other places. I got bit by my cat once. And they always told you to be careful about cat bites. Bit lots of times, and all of a sudden, red flames going up my arm, and it hurt. Luckily, I was going to the doctor that day. Just saying. Anyway. Infection can travel through the body, but so can white blood cells. And so when a part of the body has been infected, it builds up white blood cells, and it goes other places, and we become healthier because of the immune system that we've created. We can be our own immune system for each other. When you have overcome something, you can share that consciousness, and others can be inoculated, actually healed by your consciousness. I mean, this is amazing. It happens all the time. Actually, I was going back to my first mentor. My mentor, he told me a lot. But my goodness, he had a prosperity consciousness. And I caught his immune system from poverty. Consciousness is catching. And once you've overcome something, share it. Share it. You don't necessarily even have to talk about it. You just have to know that the consciousness that you've generated is now being accepted by someone else. This is what community does. This is what the body of spirit, or if you don't like the word Christ, the living universe does. Those people making breakthroughs share the breakthroughs. So do you mind if we go a tiny bit late? Thank you. All righty then. All right, so we're going to have a little white blood cell action around here. And who has something they'd like to overcome? Oh, nobody? Well, that's because you're second service. Well, okay, Robin, what's up, bub? Oh, look at that little hand. Okay.
This past Wednesday, I broke my hand at CrossFit. I was going to jump up on a box, and my hand caught it and snapped a couple bones.
Yes? And what do you want to overcome?
I want them healed, completely restored function as quickly as possible.
Okay. So how many of you have ever had something happen to your body and were amazed at how completely it was restored? Okay, stand up. Look at all this white blood vessels. White blood cells. White blood cells. Okay, so now I want you to go back to the time when you just were like amazed. I want you to go into amazement. So you're going to go back to the beginning. The amazement of how quickly your body healed. Now breathe that in, that experience, because this isn't words, this is an experience. I want you to breathe into that experience. Breathe it. And now fill up with that experience of just, oh my goodness, how great my body is, how fabulous. And now take your hands, you're going to move them towards Robin. And by the way, for those of you who are saying, well, I got this going on too, this is a homeopathic experience. She gets it, and she gets it for all of us, okay? So all the white blood cells, put your little hands out. I was like talking to my dog. Put your hands out. Now breathe in, and when you breathe out through your hands and share with Robin the experience. Breathe out. And Robin breathes in the experience of amazing healing. Because we all know what that's like. And you are held in the consciousness of amazing healing. And so it is. Isn't that fun? Who else has a totally different thing? Okay.
So what do you need me to do?
Just say what you would like to have a breakthrough in.
Okay, so my name
no
is...
story. No story.
No story, okay. It's fear. It is fear. If it isn't love, it's fear. But this is around getting clarity about, I'm putting everything I own in storage. And,
So you have a fear of?
I don't know what I'm doing next.
Oh, good. So how many of you have ever been confused? Step over here. So because we've all got reasons. So what I try to go to, remember I go to the one, it's like we all have iterations. But if you get through the iterations, it comes down to a thing that we have in common. And so please step back so we got you the slide here, right over here, thanks.
Okay.
So let me just see that I can get the baseline so that other people can share in this.
Okay.
So is there a fear of stepping out and doing something different?
Yes.
Is that the baseline?
Baseline fear is the unknown. I don't know what I'm
You have
doing.
a fear of the unknown.
I don't know what I'm doing next.
And so you're very confused.
Yes, clarity would help.
Okay. So do you kind of understand that you might have thought that? Now, ask yourself, how many of you felt something move in you when you were confused? And all of a sudden you knew how to act. If that's true for you, stand up. These are your white blood cells. See, doesn't this also heal that whole idea of I'm all alone? Okay, so all of you that feel what it felt like when all of a sudden, even in the confusion, you knew what to do. Recall that. Breathe into it. And breathe out through your hands and share the conviction and the courage that eventually showed up in you. Go back to that and share that. And thank you very much, and so it is. So now you have an idea. Thank you. So now you have an idea of what to do when someone is going through something that you've gone through similarly. So when I too have had experiences of health issues and trials and tribulations, and so when somebody has one, I immediately go back to that conviction that I had that everything would be okay, which carried me through everything. And so in my presence, people will feel that conviction even if I don't say a thing. Because if we are here as the body of Christ or the body of the manifest universe, it is selfish to think that it's all about me. Perhaps I went through it so I could share it. Perhaps you went through and overcame so you can share that overcoming consciousness, because that's what's going to lift us all up. And it's okay to seek the presence of someone that you know has gone through something. So let's just pray very quickly. Let us acknowledge the presence, the power of the One. You know, we sing that. I sing in the name of the One. What if we understood that truly we live in the name of the One? We exist in the nature of that One. We breathe in the nature of that One. We will speak from that nature of the One, and the One will push us into greater expressions of what it truly is, which is good. And I speak my word that the idea that we could be separate from that One is falling away. It's dissolving from our consciousness. That idea that we are somehow separate and different than others, that is an idea that is a sin. It is a mistake. And it is being healed in this instant because we are in the presence of the Holy One. And the Holy One is dissolving from us all those ideas that have kept us from knowing our abundant, incredible, passionate, powerful life. So we eat of the tree of life. And we abandon the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And we let God reign in us, the One. And so it is.